For 24 years, one sound defined the soul of the Yamaha factory, the smooth, rhythmic hum of the inline-4 engine. It was a philosophy of precision over power, a machine that moved like a surgeon's scalpel through the corners of the world's most dangerous circuits. 125 victories, 8 riders' titles. This was the DNA of the M1. But as the sun rose over the Buriram International Circuit in Thailand, that era didn't just end. It was executed. The silence of the Thai morning was shattered by a sound that made veteran mechanics stop in their tracks. It wasn't a hum, it was a guttural, ferocious scream. It was the sound of Yamaha's brand-new secret V4 engine, a machine built not for grace but for war. After years of being humiliated on the straights by Ducati and KTM, Yamaha had finally gone nuclear, abandoning 2 decades of tradition to build a Ducati killer. But the stakes couldn't be higher. This isn't just a new bike, it is a desperate gamble to save a failing giant. Inside the garage, the tension was suffocating. The project had already faced a humiliating near collapse just days earlier, and many insiders whispered that the engine was far from ready. Yamaha's future and the career of their new superstar signing, Toprak Razgatlioglu, rested on what happened in the next 8 hours. No one inside the paddock expected what would unfold next, and it would change everything for him, his team, and the entire 2026 season. But to understand the intensity in Buriram, we have to look back at the disaster that nearly killed the project before it even started. Just 1 week prior, during the official tests in Sepang, the Yamaha garage had become a crime scene. While the world watched for the V4's debut, the garage doors remained shut for an entire day. Rumors began to circulate that the new 90-degree V4 was unrideable. Behind closed doors, the reality was even worse. Reports surfaced that both Fabio Quartararo and Toprak Razgatlioglu had broken engines during the initial runs. The power delivery was so violent, so unrefined, that the internal components were literally tearing themselves apart under the strain. Toprak, the reigning world superbike champion and Yamaha's big hope for the future, was seen looking visibly dejected. He had come to MotoGP to win, but he was staring at a pile of scrap metal. He publicly admitted that seeing his name at the bottom of the timing sheets was demotivating. For a rider who thrives on confidence, the Sepang collapse was a psychological hammer blow. With the project on the brink of cancellation and the media circling like sharks, Yamaha's engineers were given an impossible task. They had exactly 72 hours to fly parts back to Japan, redesign the power delivery, and find a way to stop the engine from exploding before the Thai test began. Yet the real turning point happened away from the cameras, in a frantic series of 72-hour shifts. When the bikes arrived in Thailand, they weren't the same machines that had failed in Malaysia. Yamaha's technical team had performed a heart transplant on the V4's electronics and crankshaft configuration. As Toprak rolled out for his first session in Buriram, the change was instantaneous. The ferocious sound noted by onlookers was the result of a more mature, refined combustion cycle. The bike wasn't just louder, it was faster, much faster. From the very first lap, Toprak began attacking the circuit with the same stop-and-go violence that made him a legend in superbikes. The V4 engine provided a more even power distribution, allowing him to exploit the rear Michelin tire in a way the old inline-4 never could. For the first time, a Yamaha rider was able to stand the bike up and fire it out of the corner like a bullet. The paddock's attention was no longer on the smoke coming from the exhaust, but on the staggering lap times appearing on the monitors. Toprak's confidence was returning with every corner, his body language shifting from defeated rookie to aggressive hunter. But while the speed was there, the bike was hiding a dangerous secret under braking. Inside the pit lane, whispers began spreading faster than the bikes on track. It wasn't just the Yamaha mechanics watching the monitors, it was the competition. Crew members from Ducati, KTM, and Aprilia were spotted repeatedly lingering near the Yamaha garage, trying to catch a glimpse of the V4's narrower chassis and aggressive new aero package. Rival teams were in a state of absolute shock. For years, they had designed their bikes to outpower the soft Yamaha. Now they were looking at a machine that sounded like a Ducati and handled like a blade. Technical analysts noted that the V4 configuration allowed Yamaha to move the engine's center of gravity further back, solving a decade-long struggle with rear-wheel grip. However, this radical shift created a new political tension. Rumors suggested that some rival manufacturers were already questioning the legality of Yamaha's rapid development under the Rank D concession rules. They claimed Yamaha was gaining an unfair advantage by being allowed to redesign their engine mid-season. But while the paddock argued over rules, Toprak was dealing with a much more physical problem. The V4's brutal power was making the bike wobble at over 340 kilometers per hour, pushing the Turkish rider to his absolute physical limit. But behind that calm expression, pressure was building fast. Toprak is known as the king of late braking, a rider who can stop a motorcycle on a dime while the rear wheel is 2 feet in the air. The new V4 was designed specifically to support this stoppy style, but taming the monster was proving to be a physical nightmare. The technical shift to a V4 meant the bike was narrower, but also more sensitive to rapid changes in direction. In the long, sweeping corners of Buriram, Toprak was struggling to find the flow that Yamaha was once famous for. He even joked with his mechanics that he felt like he was riding a touring bike because they had to raise his handlebars just to give him enough leverage to manhandle the machine into the apex. This was the Frankenstein reality of the V4 project, a marriage of brutal, raw power and a chassis that was still fighting its own identity. Toprak was strong on the brakes, but as the rear Michelin tire began to spin under the V4's massive torque, he realized that the smooth style required for MotoGP was the exact opposite of his natural instincts. He was fighting the bike, fighting the tires, and fighting the expectations of a factory that had spent millions to build this bike just for him. Yet, the twist that followed would change the championship narrative entirely. And from that moment, nothing would ever be the same inside the Yamaha camp. As the test reached its climax, a glaring rift began to surface. While Toprak was finding great potential in the V4's aggressive character, his teammate and former world champion, Fabio Quartararo, was telling a very different story. Fabio, who had spent his entire career mastering the smooth inline 4, was struggling to adapt to the V4's violence. His feedback was blunt and devastating. "We are super far from the top." While Toprak's stop-and-go style masked the bike's lack of mid-corner stability, Fabio's high corner speed style was being neutralized by the new engine's heavy crankshaft. This created a toxic atmosphere within the garage. Engineers were forced to choose. Do they develop the bike for the rookie who can override its flaws, or for the champion who demands the precision of the past? The data showed that Toprak was actually faster in key sectors, a revelation that sent shockwaves through Fabio's side of the garage. It was no longer just a technical test, it was a battle for the soul of the team. Yamaha had found the power they craved, but in doing so, they may have alienated the man who brought them their last title. What happened after that left even his closest team members stunned. As the Buriram test concluded, the final results showed Yamaha within striking distance of the leaders. The V4 project, which was called Dead on Arrival in Sepang, had completed a total technical revolution in less than 10 days. The era of the soft Yamaha is officially dead. The factory has embraced the spirit of challenge, building a machine that is wild, aggressive, and undeniably fast. They have traded their reputation for precision for a chance at raw, unadulterated dominance. But the road to the 2026 season opener is still paved with uncertainty. The engine is still fragile, the electronics are still a work in progress, and the tension between Toprak and Fabio is a ticking time bomb. Yamaha has built a weapon capable of hunting down Ducati, but the question remains, is there a rider alive who can truly tame the beast for 22 races? As the lights go out for the first race of the season, the world won't be looking for the smooth lines of the old M1. They will be listening for the scream of the V4 and wondering if it's the sound of a rebirth or the beginning of a spectacular crash.